The first hypercars were still built around compromise. They had radios, cup holders, navigation systems, enough ground clearance to survive speed bumps. Manufacturers still pretended these cars belonged on public roads. Then the industry changed, because eventually, engineers discovered something uncomfortable. Every regulation made the car slower. Crash structures added mass. Catalytic converters reduced sound and response. Noise restrictions suffocated engines. Airbag placement interfered with cockpit design. Ride height laws disrupted aerodynamics. And one by one, certain manufacturers reached the same conclusion. If absolute performance was the objective, road legality had to disappear. The result was a generation of hypercars built without compromise, without restraint, and in some cases, without any intention of ever touching public roads at all. Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. The name means sixth element, carbon, and nearly the entire car was built from it. Lamborghini revealed the Sesto Elemento in 2010 as an experiment in extreme weight reduction. The chassis, drive shaft, suspension components, and even interior sections were constructed from carbon fiber. The final weight was just 999 kilograms. Its naturally aspirated 5.2-liter V10 produced 570 horsepower, creating a power-to-weight ratio comparable to dedicated racing cars. But the real obsession was simplicity. Sound insulation disappeared. Comfort equipment disappeared. Large sections of the interior were left exposed. Even the seats were integrated directly into the carbon chassis itself. OED certification failed immediately. The exhaust system lacked the emissions equipment required in major markets because Lamborghini refused to increase weight simply to satisfy regulations. Only 20 were built, and none were ever intended for ordinary roads. Ferrari FXX K Evo. Ferrari did not describe the FXX K Evo as transportation. They described it as a research and development platform. Based on the LaFerrari, the car combined a naturally aspirated V12 with hybrid assistance to produce over 1,000 horsepower. Then Ferrari redesigned the aerodynamics. The rear wing expanded dramatically. The front splitter became more aggressive. Airflow management increased downforce by nearly 25%. At high speed, the car generated forces comparable to professional endurance race machinery. Ferrari never pursued road legality because doing so would have required redesigning the car entirely. Instead, owners entered Ferrari's XX program. The company stored the vehicles itself, maintained them itself, transported them to private track events itself. The owners arrived only to drive. Then Ferrari took the cars away again. Because machines operating at this level are controlled more like aircraft than consumer vehicles. Aston Martin Vulcan. When Aston Martin revealed the Vulcan in 2015, the company was unusually direct about its purpose. Track use only, nothing else. Its naturally aspirated 7.0-liter V12 produced over 800 horsepower in a chassis built almost entirely around aerodynamic efficiency and high-speed stability. The rear wing alone looked oversized even by racing standards. 24 were built. Each buyer was required to complete a driver training program before operating the car independently because Aston Martin considered the performance level too extreme for inexperienced owners. Road legality was never considered realistic. The Vulcan was too loud, too low, too aggressive aerodynamically. Years later, a British engineering company called RML developed a road conversion package requiring approximately 18 months per car. Only a handful were converted. Most owners left theirs unchanged, exactly as Aston Martin intended. Koenigsegg 1.1. The name described the engineering target directly. 1 horsepower for every 1 kilogram of weight. A ratio that had never previously been achieved in a production vehicle. Koenigsegg built only 6. The twin-turbocharged 5.0-liter V8 produced 1,340 horsepower, while the car itself weighed approximately 1,340 kilograms. Even the tires became a problem. Koenigsegg worked directly with Michelin because existing high-speed tire technology struggled to survive the loads generated by the car. Aerodynamics became equally extreme. Massive active surfaces adjusted continuously to stabilize the chassis under acceleration and braking. Road legality existed only in limited markets and under extremely narrow conditions. Because, realistically, no public road environment was designed for a machine operating at this level. The one-to-one existed to explore engineering limits, not transportation. McLaren P1 GTR. The standard McLaren P1 was already one of the fastest road cars ever produced. The GTR removed the remaining restrictions. Power increased to nearly 1,000 horsepower. Weight decreased further. Downforce rose dramatically. The interior became a full racing environment with 6-point harnesses, roll cage structures, and fire suppression systems. 35 were built. Like Ferrari's XX program, McLaren organized private track programs where owners received coaching from professional racing drivers. Road registration was impossible in original specification because the aerodynamic package violated multiple safety and visibility regulations simultaneously. Several years later, Lanzante converted a small number for road use. The process became so complex and expensive that the conversion itself became almost as famous as the car. Mercedes-AMG 1. Mercedes attempted something manufacturers had avoided for decades, installing a genuine Formula One-derived engine into a road car. Not inspired by Formula One, the actual architecture itself. The turbocharged 1.6-litre hybrid V6 originated from the same engine family that dominated Formula One throughout the 2010s. Immediately, engineering problems appeared. Formula One engines are designed for constant, high-speed operation. Not traffic, not stoplights, not cold starts. Keeping the engine stable at idle reportedly required years of additional development. In Europe, Mercedes eventually achieved homologation. In the United States, they did not. The engine configuration could not satisfy American emissions requirements without fundamentally altering the powertrain's behavior. Mercedes chose to preserve the engine instead, which meant one of the most technologically advanced hypercars ever built became illegal on American roads. McLaren Speedtail. McLaren described the Speedtail as a hyper GT rather than a track car. Its purpose was sustained high-speed travel. The seating position reflected that philosophy. The driver sat in the center, flanked by 2 passenger seats positioned slightly behind, echoing the layout of the legendary McLaren F1. Top speed exceeded 250 miles per hour. But the interior architecture created a regulatory problem in the United States. American safety laws required side impact airbag placement incompatible with the central driving configuration. The digital camera mirrors created additional legal complications because physical mirrors remained mandatory under American law during development. McLaren refused to redesign the cockpit. Instead, the company accepted limited show or display legality for the American market. 106 were built, all because McLaren prioritized architecture over regulation. Pagani Zonda R. The Zonda R shared very little with ordinary road-going Paganis, despite the familiar shape. Horacio Pagani built it specifically for circuit use. The naturally aspirated AMG V12 produced 750 horsepower and revved beyond 10,000 RPM with almost no exhaust restriction. The sound became part of the car's identity. Trackside spectators described it as physically violent. Only 15 were built. The chassis, aerodynamics, and cooling systems were all designed around sustained track operation rather than public road practicality. In 2010, the Zonda R recorded a Nürburgring lap time that remained legendary for over a decade. Road legality was impossible because the car ignored nearly every major certification category simultaneously. Noise, emissions, crash standards, ride height, none mattered anymore. Bugatti Bolide. The Bolide represented Bugatti's final unrestricted use of the quad-turbocharged W16 engine. Everything unnecessary disappeared. Luxury disappeared. Comfort disappeared. Insulation disappeared. What remained was a lightweight aerodynamic shell surrounding over 1,500 horsepower. The downforce figures became extraordinary. At speed, Aerodynamic load exceeded several thousand kilograms across the bodywork. The roof scoop even physically changed shape under airflow pressure to improve engine breathing efficiency. Bugatti openly admitted road use was never considered during development. The car sat too low for ordinary streets, the visibility was compromised, the noise output exceeded legal limits almost everywhere. The bolide existed for one reason only: to explore the absolute limit of what the W16 platform could become before the engine family disappeared permanently. Pagani Huayra R. Modern hypercars increasingly rely on turbocharging because emissions regulations reward smaller, quieter engines. Pagani moved backward intentionally. The Huayra R abandoned turbochargers completely and replaced them with a naturally aspirated 6-liter V12 developed specifically for the project by Mercedes-AMG. Power output exceeded 850 horsepower. But the engine's character mattered more than the numbers. It revved to 9,000 RPM with almost unrestricted exhaust flow, creating sound levels incompatible with modern road regulations. Pagani removed homologation requirements before development even began. That single decision changed the entire project afterward. Without road laws dictating design priorities, engineers focused only on airflow, response, and emotional intensity. 30 were built. Most travel directly between private collections and closed circuits because the car cannot legally function in normal traffic conditions. Lamborghini Essenza SCV12. Lamborghini developed the Essenza SCV12 alongside its motorsport division Squadra Corse. The naturally aspirated V12 produced over 830 horsepower without turbochargers or hybrid systems. Air entered through a roof-mounted intake directly above the driver, while the chassis itself functioned as a structural load-bearing component similar to professional endurance race cars. Only 40 exist. Owners entered a private program where Lamborghini transported, maintained, and prepared the vehicles for exclusive circuit events. Road legality never existed as a possibility. Achieving certification would have required redesigning the entire car around compromises Lamborghini specifically wanted to avoid. At a certain performance level, regulations stop functioning as limitations. They become obstacles. And eventually, the manufacturers building these machines stopped trying to overcome those obstacles at all. They simply abandoned the roads entirely. Because the final evolution of the hypercar was never a better road car. It was a machine that no longer belonged on roads in the first place.